All right, good afternoon, everyone. Good to see several of you again anyway. Continuing to recognize some names. Thanks for sticking with us from session to session. And in each session, we're bringing in some new folks, which is exciting. This next session here, what we call our CMO Summit Young Alumni Panel, has quickly become, I think, our most talked about and popular session after what the ladies pulled off last year. I think Amanda is the only one back from last year, but Morgan replaced Michaela, I think. And so we've got some experience here that I think is going to be great. But this one couldn't be more relevant for you. So the goal of this panel is to find folks that started their careers in marketing or sales from the Moore School within the last few years, so that you can get a really good understanding of what it's been like for them, what they wish they had done differently, how they found their jobs, how they've progressed in their jobs, and any other advice you'd like to ask them. So this one's really all about you, our students here, and connecting with these young alumni. And I'm just here to hopefully keep everything working smoothly, and I'm going to try to stay out of the way as best I can. For those that haven't been with us today, this is our 5th annual CMO Summit. It's a showcase event for the marketing discipline, to bring together professionals and students so that primarily our students can learn what it's like in the marketplace, what are the key challenges people are facing, what are the opportunities out there, and what's the future of marketing look like for our students as you guys think about getting started in your careers. And we've got, I think, over 300 registered now. I think it's been growing as the day has gone along even, so I don't even know what the latest numbers are. And we are in our 3rd session today. As a reminder, we do have one more event tonight at 6:30 to 8. If you're if you signed up, we look forward to seeing you there. We've got breakout rooms with professionals that you'll get a chance to network in small groups. If you haven't signed up for that, we might have a couple spots available. Throw it in the events chat to chat the events, if you will, and I'll look at it. We'll see if we can get you in. It's an hour and a half. It'll go by quickly, I promise you. But you'll get to meet 2-3 different people, professionals tonight, kind of talk to them on a smaller scale, if you will, maybe 3-4 people in a room. So I look forward to seeing many of you again after that. So again, keep yourself on mute, but we will definitely be calling on you to ask your questions. We're going to be monitoring the chat closely. Please chat your questions. We will go off the rails, if you will, a little bit, or off the grid and get to your questions, even if we have to stop some of the things that we had planned. So please don't hesitate to chat. Put your video and your audio on so that they can see you when you do come in, and challenge yourself, right? I've told every session today, right? Learn at least a handful of new things if you can every time you devote time to something like this, right? Challenge your thinking, maybe misconceptions you've had, or something new that you learned. So as I said earlier, we've got a terrific panel here today for you for the next hour and a half. Different industries. We've got entertainment and media. We've got CPG. We've got spirits and wine, and tools, etc. So we've got a wide range of different industries. So a couple of these folks started in sales. A couple of these folks started in marketing. And so I think it really is a diverse group. And I have to say, a few of these are ex-students of mine. I say very, very proudly, because of how successful they've become in a short amount of time. And also I'm very proud of them because when I reached out to say, hey, would you come back and give back to today's students, they jumped at the chance to do it. So I am very, very pleased and very, very proud of each and every one of them. And so more importantly, though, what I'd like to do is introduce to you 2 fellow students who are going to be emceeing this panel. I'm going to, again, try to stay out of the way. I didn't mention it a little bit earlier, but we typically do this event around AMA Marketing Week. Those of you that don't know, AMA stands for the American Marketing Association. If you'd like to get involved in that, we put events on all the time. Please reach out to me or chat, throw it in chat, and I'll connect you to somebody. But this panel is going to be moderated by 2 of the executive board members from our student chapter of the AMA, which is Julia Blair and Justin Kilbreath. And just quickly, I want to give introductions of them, and then they're going to moderate the panel and let the panelists introduce themselves. Julia is a senior She's from Spring Lake, New Jersey, not far from my old stomping grounds. Currently a marketing major with a minor in computer science and a concentration in user interfaces and experiences. I have to say, in 10 years of doing this, that's the first combination of those three things that I've heard of. So Julie really coming at this from a unique point of view. She really would like to get into tech sales when she graduates. And I think I've gotten to know Julia. She's in my class now, and she's going to be really successful, whatever she sets her mind to, as will Justin. So Justin Kilbreath is from St. Louis. He's also senior marketing, but a operations and supply chain double major with a concentration in business analytics. So he's overlaid that analytics concentration, which is great. He's looking at opportunities both in brand management and supply chain right now, kind of exploring both opportunities. So, careers and how to get started are very top of mind with both Julia and Justin. And I can't think of two better people to kind of lead us through this discussion with these great panelists. So with that, Julie and Justin, the floor is yours. I'll get out of the way and just try to keep things moving smoothly.
Thanks so much for the introduction, Jeff. And thank you again for putting on this event. It's going to be a great session, so let's hop right into it. Panelists, I'm just going to ask you to take a minute or two just to give us a bit of an introduction and talk about when did you graduate, your major, your current title, and any of your current responsibilities.
I can start first. So I'm Marissa. I graduated from the Moore School in 2019. I then began a career at Tectronic Industries, and I hadn't heard of Tectronic Industries before. A lot of people haven't, but you've probably heard of some of the brands that we sell, like Ryobi, Milwaukee, Rigid, Hart. They're consumer power tools, and also Milwaukee is industrial, more pro power tools. And we've also got a huge floor care division, like Hoover, Oric, things like that. But I went in as a sales rep on the field level in Home Depot and Walmart, selling to customers, learning about the brand, about our products, about our retail customers. And then I transitioned into product coordinating, which is what I do now. And I kind of oversee the idea of a product. So let's say like I'm over fans and we want to make a new clamp fan. I oversee that all the way from market research and what features does it need to include, all the way to a prototype, working with engineering, supply chain, finance, marketing, and how we're going to promote it to customers when it finally is on shelves, and then managing it throughout its lifetime with our sales and supply chain. So it's a very, very diverse role, but I love it and I've been enjoying it since.
Great, I can go next. My name's Amanda Norris. I graduated from the Moore School in 2018. I'm originally from New Jersey. Currently, I'm an ABM at Mondelez International. I work on brands such as Sour Patch Kids, Swedish Fish, Oreo, and Toblerone. So in this role, I'm responsible for all of our seasons. So Easter, Christmas, Halloween, Valentine's Day. So it's a really fun role, very creative. My team is responsible for all of the new innovations. So everything from idea to launch, figuring out what our return of investment looks like, what's our size of prize, what should our media strategy be, what should the support plan be, pretty multifaceted. But prior to this role, I was in a 2-year rotational program with my business. So I had a little taste of being a sales rep, people manager, account management, and then I went into rotations in brand on our Trident business. So had a little bit of marketing and sales, and I think that that really prepped me for the role that I'm in now. So excited to meet everyone. I wish we were in person, but I'm excited to answer any questions you all have.
I can go next. My name's Morgan Hamel. I graduated in 2019, majored in marketing and international business. Since graduating, started at Coca-Cola Consolidated and initially started in our leadership development program. So it was a 12-month rotational program, essentially got to see every function of our business and just learn how it ran from the ground up. And then going from there, transitioned into my current role last year, as an e-commerce customer development manager. So I sit in our sales organization and manage those digitally native customers. So Amazon, GoPuff, DoorDash, and get to sell in strategies and work with the Total Coke system on e-commerce, which is exciting. And yeah, I appreciate being here. I'm excited to get to meet some of you guys, and thanks for having me.
I'll jump in next. So my name is Allie Babcock. I'm from New Hampshire and I graduated from South Carolina in 2016. I double majored in international business and marketing and had Professor Reeling in class. So it's fun to be back. Thank you guys so much for having us. I now work for E&J Gallo Winery. I'm in a sales leadership development program. So my first position was as a sales representative in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So I was calling on retail accounts and building relationships with Whole Foods, fresh markets at a local level. And then I was a district manager managing a team of sales representatives, and then a chain analyst calling on Winn-Dixie or Southeastern Grocers as their kind of umbrella, and managing a lot of the data that went into making decisions on what wines and spirits they were going to carry. And now I do something similar, but my customer is CVS. So my buyer is the CVS corporate buyer for the Southeast, from Maryland to Florida. And I really use a lot of data and insights to determine, what products are performing well in CVS, what's performing well elsewhere in the state. How can we make sure we're grabbing every opportunity? And you guys might recognize Gallo. Some of the brands that we do are La Marca, Barefoot, High Noon, Pink Whitney. So they don't always say Gallo on the bottle, but you definitely would recognize them from some of your shopping. But thank you guys so much for having us here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alma. I graduated from the University of South Carolina in 2016. I went to USC for the International Business Program, and I loved it when I was there. When I graduated, I remember there were so many different places and companies that I was applying, and so many job descriptions looked the same, and there were so many different jobs that and avenues. I remember feeling almost overwhelmed with so many choices, but then a lot of anxiety about which way to go. So I actually started with iHeartMedia in Columbia, South Carolina. I chose the company because of its multifaceted media platforms, from audio and podcasting to digital to events like iHeartRadio Music Festival to obviously social, etc. I thought it was exciting, and it was a very creative way to use a marketing background. And there's a lot of room for growth within the company. And so that's what I did. So in about a year or two, I moved to the Charlotte market. And now a year after that, I'm in the New York City market. So I work with a lot of different brands and silos. So from gaming with brands like Nintendo and creating experiential events, and experiential campaigns, to beauty like Estee Lauder or pharma. There's so many different avenues, and there's a lot of creativity that goes within creating these marketing campaigns and working with brands to have these fun and engagement, consumer-driven ideas. So I'm really excited to be here, and I'm excited to learn from all of you. And let me know any questions you have.
Thank you so much, panelists, for introducing yourselves. And I just want give everyone a quick reminder. If anyone says anything that sparks your interest, or you have a follow-up question, definitely drop it in the chat and we'll get to it as time goes on. But so the first question I wanted to ask everybody is, how did you get your first job out of college? And what advice do you have for all of us marketing majors for finding their first job or maybe their dream job? And let's start with Allie.
So I was in a business fraternity. I was in Delta Sigma Pi in college, which I am so grateful for, because I feel like I learned so many incredible skills that set me up for that senior year of internships and finding a full-time job. I did the typical, career fairs and networking events, and ended up having a sales professor that came to me and said, I don't know if you're familiar with this company, but I think it would be a great fit. Do you like wine? And to this day, I owe that professor a great deal, because she was in touch with a recruiter. She was very familiar with the program. She made that introduction, and Just a few months later, I had a job offer. So I got very lucky, and that goes to show that utilizing your network, especially professors, they really want to see you succeed. So utilizing all of the tools that they have at their disposal.
I guess I can go next. So when I was in undergrad, I always had kind of a passion for consumer packaged goods, whether that be skincare, beauty, food. I always was interested in working in brand. And I was lucky enough to meet Professor Railing and take his class and learn more about that side of business. So I did an internship my junior year in CPG at Campbell's Soup, and I loved it. And then I went back for my senior year, and I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. And I was at an event, I think it was the Women in Sales and Marketing event, and Jeff introduced me to a woman who went to South Carolina that's at my company, and I made the connection, and she said, hey, you'd be great for this leadership development program. Are you interested in interviewing for it? Within a week, I flew up, did the interview. It happened very quickly. So just to echo what Allie said, we have such a strong network of alumni, and anytime you're interested, I said this yesterday, anytime you're interested in a company or an industry and you go on LinkedIn and you see, oh, this person went to South Carolina and they work at Amazon, that's so cool. Just shoot them a message and say, hey, I'm just interested to hear what you do day to day, and it'll help you maybe guide that process a little bit.
Yeah, I can jump in. I have really similar story to Allie and Amanda. I also got connected to my now current boss through Jeff Railing. So yeah, I got connected with Jeff my sophomore year. I kind of cold emailed him just because I wanted to learn more about marketing and what careers in marketing looked like, and wanted to make sure I felt right in my major, and just kind of kept up that relationship over the course of college. And I didn't end up in his class until one of my last semesters, senior year. But at that point, he kind of knew what I was interested in, and got me connected to Coca-Cola Consolidated. And from there, I went through the whole interview process, and the rest is history. So definitely would echo the advice with just the relationship building and the networking. I would also add, I think just looking back at senior year and the stress of job hunting, at least I felt a lot of pressure to find this perfect job, and everyone else is finding the best job ever, and they're so excited about their job that they have after graduating. And I just at least felt a lot of pressure around that. And I would just say, one piece of advice that I got while applying was, your first job isn't your last job. So you don't have to find the perfect job after graduating. You may or may not end up liking it. If you like it, great, that's awesome. Keep going from there. But if you don't, you can still learn so much from whatever role you start in. So as long as you're learning and feel like you're developing during your first role, you can go pretty much anywhere from there. So that would be my advice.
I think that right now is such a great time to be entering the job market, because there's so many jobs and opportunities out there that employers are willing to take a chance. I think that employers hire you not because of what is on your resume, because, to be real, when you're leaving college, a lot of resumes look the same. We all have community service, we all have extra credit. A lot of people do a lot of things that are very similar because they want to stand out. But that, also makes all of us look almost identical. I think that what I've realized as I've moved within the same company across a few markets, that people are drawn to you, or people would hire you because of who you are. So really focus on, don't put a lot of pressure on yourself, because there is a lot of pressure and we all felt it. Realize that everyone is going through that pressure and no one knows what they're doing. Just put your best foot out there and just be yourself. Like, be someone that's memorable, not because you're perfect, because no one is. Be someone that's teachable. Be someone that someone knows that even if you don't know the job that is at hand, because no one does, that you can learn. You're willing to admit your mistakes and just be upfront about the fact that you're eager to learn. I think that's something that will set you apart, and your personality. People hire you because of who you are as a person, not what your resume says, because there's so many resumes out there. And now in this day and age, ZipRecruiter and things that you can put your resume and companies will actually reach out to you. LinkedIn also has a feature where jobs can actually reach out to you. So just put yourself out there, even if it may not be exactly what you think you want to do right now. It is a stepping stone. And think of this first job as a strategy. How can this job take me to my next step? Because every single job will be a stepping stone to your next place, whether it's in the same job and you're just moving verticals or you're moving, states. There'll be so much change that happens in your life that in the next few years, it's really important to build great connections within the job that you have, because those connections will be your key to your next position within the job or to a promotion or to your next job. So I really think lean on your relationships. Don't put too much stress on yourself, because we're all in the same position. Even now, I feel like I don't know what I'm doing. And I talk to everyone and everyone feels that way. And I think it's just doing the best, with what you have and realizing that the best part about you is that you're different and not because you're perfect.
Okay, so that was hard to follow after, but I guess leaning on that, I will say that I did not graduate college and think, oh, I'm going to go work in a Home Depot or a Walmart. But that's what I did. And I just did it humbly and thinking, what can I take away and learn from this experience? And I learned a lot. I learned how to talk to people. I learned who our customers are. How can I make better relationships at a store level that will help our brand overall. And especially launching Heart, I was one of the first reps in Walmart stores that helped launch that brand. It was so crucial. And even though you might think, oh, I'm just a lowly sales rep, you are a really important part of that company. There is a reason why TTI and many other companies have sales reps as their first job. And it kind of goes into that question that someone asked, how has sales made you a better marketing person? I would recommend going into sales first before you go into marketing, because it helps you learn every function of business. What is the product that you're selling? Who are you selling it to? Why are they interested in buying it? Who are your competitors? What are the different strategies that people are using as far as marketing, et cetera, within the spectrum here. And so I think it's a very critical part that gets way overlooked of being a sales rep at the foundational level. And like Morgan said, it's definitely not the place that you're going to end up if that's not where you want to be. Some people fall in love with sales and they continue on and they keep doing it, and that's great. I would just make sure that you if you think that you're not really that sales fit from the beginning, you come into it with an open mind and you say, I'm going to learn as much as I can from this experience. And then you communicate with those key people. So maybe it's your manager, maybe it's, I networked a lot since I was a rep in Greenville next to our headquarters. People would come into my stores and I would say, hey, what do you do? And I had no idea what product was, but I learned and I asked questions and I was like, hey, I think I'd actually be interested in that. Can you give me a tour of the office? Can I learn more about that role? And that's how I got hired to the position I am today. I had no idea I was going to go into it at first. I thought I would do brand marketing. But I think just making those connections and asking the questions and then making sure that, like I said, if you don't think that sales is like your forever path, you're going into a company that has product, brand, supply chain, finance positions available for you later on.
I work with a lot of senior level brand management folk that wish they had sales experience early in their career. So I'll just say that. You'll never go wrong. Sales teaches you timeliness, it teaches you relationships, it makes you confident, it makes you be able to go in there and make that sale and make that relationship, which is, they're kind of soft skills that you just you can't read a book and figure it out. You just have to kind of do it. And I'm so grateful for the sales experiences I've had before going into brand. It really helps me make better decisions, I think, leading the different brands that I work on.
Great. Thank you, panelists, for all your great responses and for answering the question in the chat. For another question I had was, what questions should candidates be asking about the position or company in an interview? And now that you see kind of like the other side, and what do you wish you had asked at that time? I think we'll start with Amanda this time.
Yeah, I think we're in a really interesting time, right? I've been working remote for almost 2 years. So I think a lot of folks that come out, that is in a remote role or something like that, I think it is important to probe on what the culture is like and what those kind of development opportunities are, right? When you're interviewing with a company, you want to let them know that you're there to build a career with them, right? You're not just there for a year to come in and come out. So really honing in on what are some of the developmental opportunities that you have, what are some of the kind of career planning and different opportunities that you have. My business has a ton of external partners that we work with, like the American Marketing Association and the Association of National Advertisers, where I can go to different events and learn from different folks in the industry. So just asking about different things like that. And I always think when you're interviewing, to have 3 to 4 questions at the end of the interview. You never want to end the interview and say, okay, I'm good, I don't have anything else. Or maybe even asking just around the last year and a half, 2 years, right? In brand, there's been craziness with COVID and supply chain and things like that. And so read a couple articles on the Wall Street Journal or Bloomberg before you go into the interview, and ask them, how has this impacted your business? Because then you'll show them that you studied and you're well prepared for the interview.
I've been assisting in some recruiting for Gallo this past year, and I've been blown away at everyone's adaptability to both virtual and in-person events. It's been incredible. But I got the question, can you describe your best and your worst day on the job? And I thought that was such a fantastic question, because as the interviewee, you're getting insight into, okay, what's the worst case scenario? What is a day where everything's going to hit the fan? What are the obstacles I might have to overcome? How did someone more experienced overcome those obstacles? But then it's also telling you, what does a win look like? If it's a sales position and you're a competitive person and you hear that their best day was winning a big sales incentive or getting a big deal, and that speaks to you, then that role is aligned with what's going to bring you passion and joy and fire professionally. Whereas if their answer doesn't sound like something, if you're like, oh, well, that's cool for you, but that doesn't really sound like something that would light me up, then you have a little bit more insight into what that position is going to look like day to day. I also loved what Cynthia and Patrick were saying about asking a lot more about diversity and inclusion and culture. I don't think I had the tools 5 years ago or the confidence to ask questions like that in an interview. And I would 1000% do it differently now, because I think that is make or break when you're choosing a company that you want to dedicate your time to.
Yeah, I would agree on the culture piece. I think now, being in the working world and talking to friends who are out in their jobs and also working, I think that's just something that has a huge impact on how much you actually enjoy your job, whether you actually like the job you're doing or not. The people you're around is what's going to make the difference at the end of the day. So for me personally, I would be asking for sure about culture. And then really going back to what we were talking about earlier with the whole networking, reaching out to people on LinkedIn outside of the interview, I would recommend like reaching out to alum, or if you have any like weak ties, people who are maybe a friend of a friend, or if you're in a club and they know someone who works at the company you're interviewing at, whatever connection it is. Or even if it's just someone random on LinkedIn or someone your professors know, like whoever it is, I would just try reaching out to someone at that company and having more of just a one-off casual conversation, maybe get coffee with them if you're able to, and trying to ask about the culture, how their experience there has been, just to get some more perspective outside of the interview setting.
Yeah, to add on that, when I interviewed with TTI, we did a lot of in-person networking events too. Like we would go out to dinner with them, and I mean, we get to chat about things professionally, but also you get to learn like what's the personality of people that you're working with. Do they have a similar personality to you? And that can kind of help determine if you're going to fit in there, if you're going to like it, if you're going to do well in the job. So I think if you don't have access to those networking events, I would strongly encourage you to reach out to as many people at that company, and especially in the roles that you're actually interested in as you can, not just the recruiter, and set up informational interviews to learn about the role, because I think roles can definitely be misconstrued on paper, and it may not be what you think you're getting into. Also, one thing kind of related, not really, but my learning curve for my job was huge. I had no idea that it would be as difficult to catch on and learn as it was. And it's not that like college didn't prepare me, but there's just really no comparison to what you experience, at least in product. You can't prepare for it, and it's different every day. So I would say that ask them what the learning curve is for the job, because I'm actually training someone right now. And when I approached my boss about training her, he was like, oh, this learning curve is actually 4 months. So, and I was like, what? And be patient with yourself, because you might not get it at the 4-month mark. A lot of people say they don't get it until the 6, even 8-month mark. So I think that's something that you just come out of college expecting like, oh, I know everything now. It's a lot different in the working world. And I'm not saying that to scare you. I'm saying that to tell you to be patient with yourself. It's okay. Ask questions. That's why you have higher ups. They don't expect you to know everything.
Thank you so much. And to kind of feed off of that, some of you touched on it. How has the recruiting process changed in the past couple of years? And what advice do you have on changing up your strategy for like a Zoom interview or a Zoom networking event? And Alma, let's start with you.
Yeah, I'm still virtual as well. And it's been I don't know, 2 years. I don't even know anymore timing. I think that so many of our calls now, my workload has quadrupled actually, because before we used to have a lot of travel time, a lot of downtime in between meetings. So before I would have 2-3 meetings a day, and that would be a full day. Now my workload is that I have 7, 8, 9 meetings a day, back-to-back Zoom calls, because there is no transportation time. So expectation and productivity has totally gone through the roof at our job, but also in terms of time management. The person that you're interviewing with, I think that you're probably maybe the 4th, 5th, 6th interview of that day, because usually they like block off a whole day for interviews. They'll probably have done 10 times more meetings. They're frazzled, they're stressed, because we all are. And I think at that time, it's really important to this is going to be a face-to-face conversation that you have with them, where they have to focus on you. A Zoom meeting, there are some pros and cons, but a pro about it is that they're 100% locked in, focused. They aren't checking your phones because it's rude. So you have that one-on-one time to really make yourself stand out, knowing that they're tired and they've been on so many other calls. So it's really about making yourself stand out in a way that is different, not robotic. Be fun, have questions, but just make it a session that, to me, when I leave a Zoom call, it's light and it's refreshing and you're smiling and you're, even though you've had that conversation, it's really that personality factor that really makes a Zoom call shine through. Your personality has to shine through. I'll have, your resume in front of me. But if you can have that engaging conversation, that's what's going to stick with that person, because by the end of the day, they've had so many other conversations. So of course, be prepared, study, have questions, but also, why do you stand out? What makes you different? What, even if it's a crazy, stupid joke that, makes you cringe, at least they laughed, and I just want to make someone feel a connection in whatever way. I can't tell you how to make a connection, but whatever way that's special to you to have a connection, form a connection with that person because that's what they'll remember.
Yeah,
Go ahead, sorry.
I was just gonna say, going off of that, I would say that it's hard with virtual to have more natural interaction. So just really trying to force in small talk, especially at the beginning of the interview, and just trying to make it a little bit more conversational. Obviously still professional, but just trying to kind of break the ice a little bit, especially at the beginning, because I know with in-person interviews, I felt like before there's a little bit more chit chat versus the virtual interviews that I'm now sitting in on the other side. Sometimes it's just pretty quiet unless us on the interview panel says something. So if you're able to spark up a conversation with them, I think that's helpful. And just humanizing who's interviewing you and asking them questions and getting to know them a little bit.
I was just pulling up something that I had on my phone about 10 things that require no skill whatsoever. So some of them include passion, doing extra, being prepared, showing up on time. I think that a lot of those things people can sometimes glaze over, but they're so important in working. And I think also in the interview, to echo what everyone else is saying, right? Make that personal connection, make that little 1-2 in the beginning, maybe read up on them beforehand, and yeah, just try to be natural and excited and hungry to learn. If there's a question that is a little bit difficult that you don't know exactly, just try to just take a second and be positive and don't get overwhelmed, because it's awkward for both sides sometimes, for the interviewer and the interviewee, and the interviewer wants you to do well. No interviewer wants the person they're interviewing to choke. They want you to do well, and they want it to be a positive experience. So just remember that.
Like Amanda, I did a little bit of research before this because I was thinking that probably the biggest challenge of virtual interaction now is that you're missing some of those nonverbal cues. So I looked it up, and on average, experts say 70 to 93% of communication is nonverbal, which is absurd. So 7% at a minimum is the words coming out of your mouth. Everything else is tone, if you're fidgeting, facial expressions, head movement, hand gestures, posture, etc. So I think realizing that how important it is to capitalize on those, even if you're looking at a screen. To echo what the rest of the panelists have said, you know, if someone is interviewing you, they have seen a lot of faces on that screen throughout the day, whether it's people they work with or people they're interviewing, and it can get monotonous. So finding a way to utilize your strengths and those nonverbal communication skills and come across as enthusiastic and excited and positive and small nods and smiles, I think you'd be shocked what a world of difference that can make, just the energy that you give off to someone, even if it's through a screen.
And if they ask a question and you don't know and you are unsure, say that you don't know and that you're unsure. Like it breaks the ice and it's humanizing, because not everyone is a dictionary. We all don't know things, and it's okay. It's better to say that you don't know something and that I'm not sure about that. You know, let me get back to you. Let me circle back, than to try to forge ahead and they know that you don't know and you know that you don't know. And that just, you know, it's better to say that you don't know, because all of a sudden that's authentic and people crave that authentic connection. So if you don't know, it's totally fine. You're not supposed to know everything about a job. That's why you're in an interview process, and that's why they have an onboarding process. A lot of times in the onboarding process, you could not know anything about that company and go through the onboarding process and know everything that you need to know. So that's why it's there. So it's okay not to know. Tell them that you don't, and they'll love you better for it.
I would follow up with one other piece of advice that you can use to make yourself stand out. I used this in my last interview to get the job that I have today. I'm a product coordinator, so one of the things that we need to do constantly is be on the lookout for new innovation and what products we think would be best on the market next. So I actually sketched out and brought pictures of my sketches to my interview, even though it was all on Zoom. I held them up and I was like, look, I think this would be like the next product that we should launch in Walmart, like a multi-headed drill. And I know that seems like super cheesy, but it does show like I'm innovative, I'm thinking, I'm putting in extra time and effort to literally sketch out a picture. I really do believe that's probably what set me out from other people. So I'm not saying that in every instance you should like sketch out products or whatever, but even if it's like sending them an article that related, like after the interview, sending them an article that related to something that you talked about within the industry, or a competitor of theirs, just showing that you're engaged and focused and that you want this. I think that's the important part.
Thank you so much, everybody. The next question we had is, we know there's not really a typical day in the life for you guys at all of your jobs, but what would be like a good example of a day in your life? Let's start with Morgan.
Day in the life. Yeah, I feel like, and everyone could probably say this, it probably changes every single day. I think especially for me, I work across a number of different customers. So what they need can look different each and every day. But yeah, I think a lot of it is based around collaborating with other people. I would say that's a big part of my job, whether it's collaborating with people internally, our marketing team, product supply, our operations team, our accounts receivable department, whoever it is, it's a lot of internal collaboration. So a lot of that. And then I would say another piece of it would be collaborating with the Coca-Cola company. So Coca-Cola Consolidated, we're a separate company or a bottler, the distribution arm, but we work very closely with the Coke company in Atlanta. So a lot of influencing there. And then of course, directly with customers too. So a lot of communication, I would say, would be a big part of my day-to-day. Hopefully that kind of helps.
So I would say my position these days has kind of two main purposes. So one is building a relationship with the CVS regional buyer at a corporate level, and helping to, get them insight on all things Gallo, wine, and spirits. So a lot of the day is meeting with the CVS team, determining what they need, what their asks are. Full disclosure, a lot of my day is spent on Excel, because the second part of my job is a lot of data insight. So looking at, what actually is selling, what new opportunities are there in the market, and then collaborating with our team that actually builds the planograms, they're called. So if you walk into an account, if you walk into a grocery store and you're walking down the aisle, and you look to your left and all of the cereals or all of the wine bottles are on the shelf, there's entire teams dedicated to basically drawing out where all those items are going to be on the shelf based on varietal, based on price point, based on size of the item. So I work with a team that based on my data puts together where things are going to go.
If you eat all your chicken nuggets, hold on. It'll be so yummy.
I think we have, one person that's not muted, if y'all don't mind.
I think just to keep it going, a day in the life for me, it's different every day because I work directly. I'm basically a liaison between the clients, which, have different needs, and then our internal teams, and so I think I would say something that can relate to any industry that you choose is really about, for me, problem solving and then collaboration and managing. So every day is different. It's really just figuring out how to solve each client's problem. And I think for me, I found that being an effective communicator is the key to all of it. Just being able to communicate and collaborate with clients and then take that back to my teams and kind of communicate what the client needs in a way that my team can comprehend and understand, and then getting that task done. So it's really about, I think that's why company culture is so important, figuring out, if you can work within teams, because no matter what job you're in, you're going to have to collaborate. You're going to have to problem solve, because no day, honestly, is the same.
Yeah, I would echo what Alma just said. So my job as well, a lot of folks, a lot of people on my team in brand management and food. I work with a ton of food scientists, package designers, external agencies, all different types of really, really smart people that I love working with. But yeah, I think that my day kind of depends on the time of year and what I'm working on. So right now I'm developing out Easter 2023 and Christmas 2022. So everything that's I've launched for this kind of holiday season coming up will launch, and then starting in December, I'll prep for the next year. So prepping out all our new innovation, coming up with our sales stories, and then working with my sales planning team to then sell it into Walmart, Target, Kroger, CVS, everyone. But usually during the day, so for some of those innovations, like today, for example, I had a call with my graphic designer. We're figuring out a couple different designs to go with for an innovation. Then we'll test it out with consumers, figure out which one looks best in our product mix, and then we'll figure out, I'll figure out the P&L statement, how much is it going to cost, what's the ROI, and then we'll be off to the races. So I work primarily on innovation, all new items. So it's a lot of fun, a lot of creativity, also a lot of, I would say, finance as well. So it's great. If anyone has any questions that they think of too specific to brand, I'm always here if you have any questions. So, but yeah, teams, big team, I think in all of our roles. So.
I would say, Amanda, your role sounds very similar to product. I know you probably create packaging, and whereas I create like the product that goes in the packaging, but it's very similar, and we coordinate more with engineers and then like the ID designers of the actual product. But we do work with brand a lot to help make the package. So I'm working constantly with those teams. I typically have, I could have a day full of meetings, or I could have a day that only has 1 or 2 meetings. And then I'm just kind of replying to emails and keeping things going. As a product starts from an idea, we partner with, we have like our own internal research and development team. So we work a lot with them to find out, okay, so we think that this is people are going to be interested in it, but we send out surveys. All the market research class that you take at USC is really helpful. Please pay attention to that class, because I really wish that I had learned Qualtrics better. I love that class. I do think that what I learned there is very applicable to what I do today. Finance, Amanda mentioned that. I am in calculators all day, making sure that, okay, so we've gotten costing back from the supplier of what they think it's going to take to manufacture this. Okay, so are we making a profit from this? Like, what does our retail need to be, and how much do we have to pay our distributor to put it into their stores? So it's honestly, I kind of suggest that you double major, or at least minor in something else in the business school. Like, please pay attention in your finance, supply chain, accounting, all the other classes that you take. They really do play hand in hand with marketing, and they're super important. So don't just knock them off and say, oh, I'm a marketing major, because marketing touches every facet of the business. So yeah, just that's some advice.
Going off that, do any of you guys have any like lessons, ideas, or lectures that you learned from a class at the business school that kind of stuck with you and you still use today in your careers? Feel free, anyone, to jump in.
To this day, the story that Professor Railing told about working for a CPG company, I think he was consulting at the time with them, and there was a new, I think it was like hot sauce or mustard, something was being introduced to the market, steak sauce, I think it was A1 maybe, and a new product, a competitive product was being introduced to the market, and they were trying to figure out how are we going to beat this new product. And with market research, they determined that their average customer was only buying 2 bottles of steak sauce a year. So they did a BOGO in their major retailers, And based on that, all of their consumers purchased their year's supply of their steak sauce in one trip, and they immediately put the other brand out of business. Professor Railing, I may have gotten some of the details wrong, but to this day, 5 or 6 years ago, that story was like, dang, that is genius and kind of badass. And I want to go into marketing because something so small and so simple, based on market research, completely changed the landscape of both companies. And I thought that was absolutely incredible.
I took a case class my senior year, like an honor section of a case class where I went to Ireland with the class. We came up with different solutions, kind of similar to consulting. And that class was amazing because it made me be really confident and think on my feet. I really enjoyed that class. And then Professor Railing, my senior year, I took a marketing strategy class where there was only, I think, 10 of us in the class, and it only met once a week for 3 hours. And I don't think there's anything quite specifically that I can think of, but just that class and being kind of just in that small room with everyone and really being able to just learn. It was so organic and natural. And obviously Jeff's an amazing professor. So yeah, all of those, but also supply chain classes. I don't know if I loved them at the time, but now I do it a lot. So yeah. It's all a blur. I don't even remember half the stuff, but yeah, it was a great time.
Yeah, I think any class where I got to actually work on a real life project, not even just some made up project or here's this real company and we're just going to make up this fake thing that they need, like actually solving a business problem for a company. Getting to do that in Jeff's class, and then also getting to do that in another, I think it was part of Marketing Scholars, it was for FedEx at the time, but any of those classes where it was just actually doing something for a company, I think there's just an added level of accountability there, and maybe even a little bit of competitiveness, like wanting to have the best project for this actual business. That was just always good experience. And then I think just like simple things with that, like working on a group project, that's not something that you just do in school. You get out into the working world and those group projects turn into real life projects, and those people you had in group projects are now your coworkers. So you just those dynamics, and then also being able to present, coming up with a really clear and concise presentation and making that visually appealing, how to present data in a visually appealing way, just things like that you're getting to do in your classes that maybe at the time you're not thinking much about because you're so focused on getting the project done and trying to get a good grade. But really think about some of the skills you're building along the way, because you can talk about that in interviews and it'll help you later on.
Yeah, I was just really quickly, because you said it perfectly. What I was going to say was just critical thinking and presentation is, to me, find classes, even if they don't have the highest credits, find classes that you can collaborate, critical think, present often. That was, the worst thing for me. But putting yourself in that situation where you have to get up in front of your classroom or people who you may find intimidating in that second is really important, because especially now in a Zoom world, and when we go back, to any type of hybrid schedule, it's really about presenting your ideas in a confident way so that they can believe in you and buy into your idea.
I would recommend the Marketing Scholars Program 100%. Like Morgan said, anything where you can, and Jeff's class as well, anything where you can work with a real life company and use those critical problem solving skills is really important. And learning to work in that team dynamic is also really important. And then I guess I would recommend best sales classes. Even if you don't want to go into sales, it will give you a chance to present not only as a team, but as yourself, and learn how to sell yourself, which is always critical when looking for a job and in the interview process.
Thank you guys for all the great advice. It's especially valuable as we navigate our schedules for the spring semester. We did have some great questions pop up in the chat. So from Lily, we have, what does the work-life balance currently look like at a company for someone that would be a new hire? And how much opportunity is given to progress and excel further up in the company? So maybe if Marissa, you could start with that one.
Yeah, so I will say when I was first hired, the rep role is, and I would imagine this is probably true for other companies as well, but they know you're a new hire. They try to keep that job pretty much a 9 to 5 type of thing. You typically don't have to work longer hours, and it's very nice. But that's a stepping stone. And so they expect you when you move into your next role to take on a little bit more responsibility. Maybe you're not at the manager level yet, but there's nights that I work until not until 9 o'clock, but I stop around 5:30 and I pick back up at 9 p.m. because we have a call with China. So your days can be longer. There's some days where, hey, we have a photo shoot at 7 p.m. Or we have like a company call. And because we're dealing with Europe, it starts at 7 a.m. So you definitely have to be flexible. I will say over the last 6 months, my company has made a huge initiative to make a better work balance. It was actually not, I wouldn't say called out as an issue, but it just became like aware among higher senior ups that we were struggling with COVID, with people working from home. It's actually easier to work all day, not get up from your computer. You don't have like the, oh, well, it's 5 p.m. I gotta leave type of thing. So you end up working longer and people can get burnout really fast. So we've kind of made some new initiatives at our company. The culture is starting to shift and change where we're encouraging people to stop at 5 p.m. And then if they have, work to do, we try to support them and work as a group to get caught up. So I think that I've heard just from listening on like Wall Street Journal and stuff that is actually a common theme among companies right now. And a lot of them are starting to try to get better about the work-life balance. But it's come a long way at my company, at least since I've been there.
Yeah, I think a lot of it depends on your industry, depends on what you're in, what you're doing. My brother works in commercial real estate. He worked 7 days a week for the first 3 years out of college, whereas I work at a European company. I work longer hours. To Marissa's point, we work with a lot of people from all over the world, so that changes things, but I have my weekends and we have great PTO benefits, things like that. But I'm looking at the latter part of the question, how much opportunity is given to progress and excel further up in the company. I think a lot of that's up to you, right? It's a lot about what you want and what's important to you. And if you have 5 or 7 years down the line where you're interested in something, try to look at someone that maybe has that role and what did they do prior to that to set them up. But you don't have to have the perfect thing right away. It will all work out, but I think that a lot of these questions go in part of that culture question, right? That you ask on the interview, what's that culture like? And then reaching out to some of those people that currently work there. In CPG, it can vary extremely greatly. I'm very lucky at Mondelez. I have friends that work in other industries in CPG that don't see the light of day. So depends. So I think just asking those questions is important. But yeah, people got way better during COVID, about, I think, realizing that work isn't everything.
I agree with that. So Gallo's Sales Leadership Development Program, the first phase, you're a sales rep working for a local distributor, and the second phase, you're a district manager managing a team of sales reps at a local distributor. So full disclosure, those are pretty hands-on. The times of year when people are purchasing wine and spirits are also the times of year where you want to relax and be with your family. So there were, events that we were working sometimes on the weekends. Sometimes it was early mornings. I had a club store that I had to service in the mornings before customers got there. So sometimes that was early. So those first 2 phases were pretty hands-on, but it was also paying your dues and learning everything about the business from the ground level, being as hands-on as you possibly could get within our industry. And then I think now that I'm on the Gallo supplier side of the business, they value work-life balance a lot more. And I think I've just grown up a little bit and realized that work isn't everything, and kind of forced myself to set some boundaries for myself. At the end of the day, you need to be your biggest advocate. And yes, work is important, and getting the job done, of course, is important, but so are you, and so is your mental health and your relationships. So I think sometimes, no matter who you work for, making sure that you're prioritizing that for yourself as well, which is easier said than done, I know. But another great thing about a program like that has phases is there's definite opportunity for advancement. Right off the bat that when you graduate, you're going to be a sales rep and then a DM. And then their goal is to continue to move you on into leadership positions. So that is one thing that I've been really grateful for with Gallo, is that they continue to try to make their employees as well-rounded as possible by getting them a lot of different experiences in different positions.
Yeah, I would reiterate that it probably varies depending on the company and the role, but at least speaking from a Coca-Cola Consolidated perspective, I feel like I've had a pretty good work-life balance, and feel like if I need to go have a doctor's appointment during the day, I can go do that, or just things where I might have personal things pop up. As long as I'm getting the work done, then it's fine. So a lot of autonomy over my own schedule, which I've always really appreciated. But yeah, again, it's definitely going to depend on the industry, the job. I have friends who work in New York City in fashion and the sports industry, and they have a much different story. So it completely depends. And then the second part of the question with progressing, excelling further up in the company, again, I think Amanda said this, but I think it's really up to you, and just taking advantage of opportunities that are given to you, and also vocalizing to your manager, just different counterparts that maybe have a stake in what projects you take part in, just vocalizing your interests and saying maybe what you want to do, where you see your career going, asking those questions. I know I'm pretty sure Jeff always gave this advice back in school. No one cares about your career more than you do. Even if you have a fantastic boss, which thankfully I have the best boss ever who does invest the time in my career. But even if you have that, at the end of the day, it's up to you to really take advantage and take the initiative on what you want to do with your career and what you want to do next. So yeah, that would be my advice there, just taking the initiative with your own career.
Yeah, so I wish I had a more rosy picture to paint, but I think it definitely varies by company and by market. The great thing about my job and where you work is that basically within the business of iHeart, we own our own little individual businesses, and the amount you work sometimes directly, or a lot of times directly, correlates to how much money you make, advancement opportunities. So I was able to advance very quickly, from Columbia all the way to here, because I have, barely any work-life balance. And I know that, like you said, it's really about putting in the time and, figuring out, putting in the work so you can learn every aspect of the business and to advance. So I honestly, to be honest, trying to figure out my work-life balance now, especially with COVID, things have just gone, I thought I was busy before, and now it's just back to back, and there is no stop time, because it's just like you said, a company culture. So it's really important to figure out if that's something that you're okay with, because there's so many different avenues you can go down. And if you're looking for high risk, high reward, this is definitely an industry for you. But to be completely honest, it's something where you're not going to be able to have, a nice work-life balance, and also, work at the same pace that someone who's working 12 hours a day or more than 12 hours a day is. So just figuring out where you are at in the moment, where you're at in your career, where you're looking to go, and if that's the right fit for you, because some days I'm like, this is terrible. Other days, this is amazing. So a roller coaster.
Thank you so much, everyone. We have another question in the chat from Abby. When looking at job descriptions, a lot of them prefer if you have experience in Adobe Suite. Has having these skills or not having these skills affected your job? And feel free, anyone with any input, to go first.
I will go first. A job description is don't get caught up on the details. Be confident in yourself and go for it. A lot of the time, the details that they put in there, you can learn that skill, you can do it. Or sometimes they might not even be using the skill that much in the actual job. So don't be discouraged. I mean, a lot of jobs say MBA preferred, right? I don't have my MBA. Most ABMs have that. So don't get discouraged. And I think just focus on those other skills that you do have, that you do bring to the table versus maybe the one that you don't. And I think you guys are in such a great place being so young and technologically savvy. There's a lot of, I think, resources out there that you can do a training in Adobe, a training maybe. But I work in Nielsen every day, which is a data analytics software. I'm sure Allie works in it too. So, I mean, I got trained in that day one when I started working. So you learn, you figure it out, and you go boom. So don't be discouraged if you don't have one thing that's on that list. I'd say just go for it.
I completely agree with that. And I would add, if it does come up during the interview, something specific that you may not have experience with, I would just express your willingness and eagerness to learn that, whether it's with help of the company or through your own initiative, just watching YouTube videos and Googling things. I mean, there's plenty of things in Excel that I did not know how to do until I started working, because the one Excel class in college was helpful, but until you're really in it every single day, you're not going to fully know what you're doing. So yeah, I would just express your eagerness and willingness to learn those things.
Absolutely. Full disclosure, I just Googled what Adobe Suite was because I wasn't positive. So it's safe to say I don't use it in my day-to-day. But to echo what the girls have said, so many things, so many tech skills that I didn't have when I graduated, at no fault of anybody's, just I wasn't in a position yet to have needed them. A company wants someone that they can coach. A company wants someone with the soft skills that they can teach the hard skills. If you have a great attitude, if you're enthusiastic, if you're a great team player, someone can teach you Excel, someone can teach you Adobe. So I think definitely highlight the things that you do have working for you and emphasize your willingness and excitement to learn the things that you don't know.
Great. Thank you again, panelists. You've been giving some fantastic responses today.
All right, I just wanted to say one more thing tied to that question. Also, if they say you need 3 to 5 years or set whatever, obviously don't go applying for a senior director role, but also that's kind of a guidance. Don't also get super caught up on that either. If it says 1 to 3 years and you're just graduating, I would say go for it. Maybe I'm a little bit more bold, but I don't know.
I agree. I have a friend that just didn't put the year that he graduated on his resume when he applied for a job, 4 years into post-grad, and he got a job that he never would have gotten had he fully disclosed what year he graduated, and he was incredible at it. So I think if you're waiting for a job description that you meet 100%, you will forever be disappointed. Have a lot more confidence in yourself and your abilities, and go for it. Worst case, they say no, and best case, they say yes, and you're set.
Thank you, guys. That's great to know. I know I personally have been discouraged by job descriptions that I have not fully met, and I will not in the future. So I have another question around our overall event theme. So our overall event theme is around marketing's moment, the critical role marketing plays in an era of disruption. As you think about disruption, where your company is as a disruptor or as a disrupted, how is your business impacted, and marketing specifically? And how are you having to change your approach to your job or career? Allie, if you could start this one off, please.
Sure. So I would say that Gallo is a disruptor within their category, at least. 1 in 3 bottles of wine purchased in the United States is a Gallo bottle of wine. So the decisions that Gallo is making regarding their business, what products they're offering, affects the trends across the entire category, which is really cool that the initiatives that they take affect wine and spirits across the United States. So I've always been really impressed with the market research that they do. And I think that's how they lead a lot of initiatives and disrupt the market themselves in looking at, every gap, every opportunity in the market. Their goal is to have a product for every customer for every occasion. So finding every niche where we do not have a wine for a certain holiday or for a certain price point, and making sure that we have all of those things. And they've innovated sometimes items that have never existed, or something like that has never existed. So in that sense, it's really cool seeing them disrupting, especially the wine and spirits market. But in the last 2 years, some things that have changed, how customers shop. Even before COVID hit, we were looking at a lot of people are looking for more efficient ways to do their shopping. A lot of people are being influenced digitally and are shopping online. And especially in the last 2 years, how can we make sure that our products are in front of our customers, even if they're not in a retail account? And how can we make shopping as effortless as possible? And then premiumization, Gallo made their name in value products. Like y'all's grandparents may know Gallo as jug wine, larger formats, lower price points. That's changing. Our generation and generations above that are of drinking age now, they want variety, they want premiumization. They're willing to spend a little bit more to know what's in their product, where is it coming from, what is the impact that it's having socially, environmentally. So all of those things are, changing trends in our industry at least, and Gallo is, in my mind, leading the charge in a lot of those ways and altering what the industry looks like.
Yeah, I think for my industry, my company specifically, right, it's really understanding how are we going to meet our consumer, because to echo what everyone else has said, the consumer behavior, so many things have changed the last 2 years and beyond. So many of the ways that people are living are different now. And I think it's really just showing up in an authentic way for our consumers, right? Being really true to your brand and being really true to your legacy, right? Oreo's 100-year-old brand, but we still managed to come up fresh and new. And I think that it really shows in a lot of our communications and our strategies in advertising. This year, we were recognized by PFLAG for our Proud Parent campaign for Oreo. So for me, I am super, super passionate about helping in social causes. And so working on brands that align with those values just make me feel invigorated to work. And I think also really speak to our consumers. So I think a lot of brands try to do a lot of things in a lot of random ways, but I think that COVID has really shown us that you have to come up in an authentic way when there's so much choice. There's so many competitors. There's so many different ways someone can consume media and make a decision about how they're going to spend their money. So it's a really exciting time, I think, to get into the marketing and sales industries because we're living through the change now.
Yeah, I would say Coca-Cola is in a pretty similar position. I mean, again, it's over 100 years old. It's the #1 brand in the world. So it's obviously very well established. So I would say from being a disruptor, I think it's more so in spaces where we haven't played before. So sparkling water, for example, we had the brand AHA that came out last year. I see someone said they wish they had a Diet Coke right now. But yeah, thinking about some of those innovations that come out to disrupt those categories that we aren't currently in, or like the product Coke with coffee, that's very different, trying to reach a different consumer, a different occasion. So in those ways, trying to disrupt. And then I would say, similar to what Allie said, what we've been seeing for a number of years and has been accelerated over COVID with the whole acceleration of e-commerce. That's my whole world, so I'm very much in it. And I think in terms of how that's impacting my job, there's a lot of internal selling involved because, again, with a system that's over 100 years old, it's a little bit of a change in mindset for some people. So trying to influence where our investments are going and where we need to invest in digital and where that's important. Yeah.
I think on the flip side of being with such a young company, especially a company that just launched a brand in the last year, I think it's kind of different, like how we, especially as a product a consumer power tool company, how we market, it's going to be different than a lot of other companies. We do have the e-commerce, we have our websites, we utilize social media a lot to get the word out. Funny enough, Heart had like this amazing TikTok, and that is one of our goals as a brand and a company, is to reach younger consumers and get them interested in power tools. Earlier on, a lot of them don't pick up a drill until they purchase a house. So that's a market segment that we're targeting is people who are getting into their first apartment and buying a drill. So very, very different coming from a younger company and just a different company overall. And it's also a different industry where people are always going to go into the store usually to feel a drill. You have to feel how heavy it is. You have to feel how powerful a fan is. So I definitely think our retail partners are never really going to go away, especially Home Depot and Walmart. Those are just here to stay. So when we look at our channels, and we are trying to become better from an e-commerce standpoint and everything like that, but when we look at our main channels and where people are mainly buying our products, it's still in store. And so we have to look at, from an in-store level, how are we marketing? How is our visual merchandising techniques compared to the competition? And that's where our reps come in, and they're so important. DeWalt does have some reps, but they're like few and far between compared to TTI. I think we have reps in almost every Home Depot store, and our plan is to get them in almost every Walmart store as soon as we can. And especially this was important when we launched Heart, because people didn't know what Heart was. So I was literally explaining, hey, this is Heart. It's a power tool brand. We're replacing Black & Decker, and we're 5 times better. And so the education that comes with the rep role is so important. And then even more so in Walmart, half those people, they don't know what an impact is. They don't know why they should use one tool versus the other. So I think that we disrupt by using in-person marketing and sales, which is just really cool.
I think that's a question that I have with my clients all the time. I think, I always say I'm in the business of connection, because we reach over 98% of Americans every month, really, across all of our platforms. So as consumers really have habits that, we're used to our habits and what we do, and every day kind of looks and structures the same in our family and society structures. And we are social beings, and especially in the last year and a half, I think I really realized just how cool my job was, because it's really about when all of a sudden we're people that are craving connection with our friends, with our families, and we can't have that connection, and we feel more isolated than ever. We want that connection, and I think that's what media does. It's finding ways to connect brands with consumers in authentic ways, and especially since consumer habits and life cycles and consumer marketing has changed, because they're not going to the same stores, they're not listening to the same podcasts, they're not following the same routines that they've always done. How do you reach and move them to choose your product over a competitor, especially when they're so crazy in the middle of COVID, in the middle of their world being upside down? It's finding ways to engage and disrupt them, and it's really fun, and it's finding innovative ways to really speak to those consumers and have that emotional connection. And I think emotional connections, especially now, are more important than ever. And especially in the last year and a half, it's figuring out what sets a brand apart, because everyone is saying the same things, and not just what's on the label, but what is that connection that you have with the consumer? How do you become a household name? And how do you have that connection, or, how do you tell that story, when everyone's, attention span is that of a goldfish? Because there has been studies done that, right now the attention span of every single person because of media is that of a goldfish, 15 seconds. How do you capture someone in 15 seconds if they don't know who you are? And it's, really, the conversation I have with clients now, and it's kind of the fun and creative part of coming up with these plans and campaigns to, have that connection with consumers.
And I think to echo what Alma says too, is just the speed in which we have to go is so much faster now. You could have a campaign that's planned, let's say for Q2 2022, that obviously we already had production plan, ads filmed, and then COVID happened. So we're not going to run a Ritz ad where everyone's hugging and kissing and being around. So I think just this new world, it's just really being able to make decisions quickly and be nimble and agile. Whereas maybe in the past, it would have taken a year or so to run a campaign, which is now it's happening sometimes overnight. I work on Sour Patch Kids, and Olivia Rodrigo did her Sour album. We skew really well with Gen Z. We collabed with her. It was like a matter of 2 weeks that we did it and figured it out and came up with the go-to-market strategy. So yeah, I just think it's just a really crazy, kind of just fast-paced but exciting time to be around.
Because really with disruption comes opportunity.
Yes.
And that's really how I saw it, being someone that's young in the business. There are a lot of people, especially as you're going into the workplace. I felt this myself. You walk into a room and there's so many people that have been there for 25 years, heritage, right? They have, and you feel like, and I've been in those situations many, many, many times, especially when you're trying to progress up a ladder or move, and they look at your inexperience or a lack of years of experience. Before it might have been a negative thing, but now you have to, you have more power than you think. Because right now, I always say when there's chaos or when there's disruption, that's your time, that's your opportunity, because the status quo just doesn't cut it anymore. People who've been doing the same thing for 25 years are actually at a disadvantage, because when you're in a routine and you're being repetitive, it's hard to get out of that mindset and have a different perspective. You come in with a fresh perspective, you do something different. It may be seen weird now, but look at Amazon, look at Apple, right? You don't have an innovative idea and you don't do things differently by doing what everyone else is doing. So really you're setting yourself apart by saying, how can I disrupt this? How can I walk into this company and do something that everyone else isn't doing? And now's the time to do it, because that's what they're looking for. Because right now we want people who are interested in doing things that are different, because that's the only way you're going to get in front of someone and make an impression.
Thank you so much. And yeah, Alma, what you said really resonated with me, that challenge the status quo. I kind of live my business motto, I would say, is challenge the process and be really having to get out there and disrupt things. This will be our last question, as we really, are kind of short on time, but kind of going off those big disruptions. This is a question from Blaine. All of you have experience at very big companies. So how do you feel about working at a big company? Do you ever feel your role is not rewarding due to the size of the company? And how are you able to stand out in the crowd and move up in the ladder? And Morgan, go ahead and start.
Yeah, I personally really enjoy it. I think there's a lot of opportunity at a large company. I think sometimes you can feel like there's so many people, like, do people actually see me? But I think if you're putting your best foot forward to excel in your role and not just meet expectations, but go above and beyond and seek out projects where you're getting to work with teams beyond your maybe normal bubble, you can get more exposure. So yeah, I think it's just a matter of getting the right exposure, taking advantage of any opportunity that you can. And like I said earlier, just taking the initiative with your career, and being vocal with your manager or leadership and whoever else you're able to kind of meet with. I would also add, one of the things that I love is being able to reach out to other people in different departments and pick their brains about different roles. So if I'm interested in going into product supply at some point, or marketing, or whatever it is, and having those people out there to reach out to and learn a little bit more about their career paths, I think is a good opportunity.
I would say it completely depends on the company. E&J Gallo Winery is actually the biggest winery in the country, but they're also family owned. So I think that lends itself to a really unique culture in that they're able to make a lot of decisions for the good of the environment, for the good of their employees, for the good of their communities, sometimes over profits, and do the right thing, but it's still a huge company with a lot of opportunity. So I think if you can find something like that, where you get a mix of both, where you get that smaller company feel, where they're actually invested in their people and their communities, but also, of course, you want that opportunity for upward mobility and a lot of opportunity in the future of your career. So I think there is a sweet spot where you can find both, but it's going to be unique to every different corporation.
Yeah, I agree. I do think, maybe I'm biased, but I think that starting out at a large place is a good place to start because they have so many resources. So at Mondelez, at Coca-Cola, at PepsiCo, etc., you know, you're going to have a lot of exposure to a lot of different platforms and people and opportunities. So if you start out big and then later on in your career you want to go small, I think that a lot of the things that you learn at such a large company can lend itself well. Let's say you start out, you work 5 to 7 years in a big company, then maybe you want to go to an agency, maybe you want to go to a smaller company, privately owned. So I think that starting out, it's really interesting to learn from such a big place. And to echo what Morgan said, I think when you're first starting out, if you're at a big place, set up a coffee chat with maybe a new person every month, and then kind of figure out, especially in this virtual world, who you kind of click with, and then find someone that's maybe a mentor to you that you can connect with and really talk about what you're looking to grow in and develop in. But yeah, I think don't be scared about working at such a large place because, I mean, you're still working with your team and having those personal relationships. So
I think an important part of that is maybe, you know, the highest person up, the VP, maybe he doesn't know your name, but he probably knows your boss's name. So I think keeping clear communication with your boss and, you know, the people in between is really, really important and can help you get where you want to be. A lot of people are like scared to talk to their boss about next steps, especially if they want to move out of a different department. But ultimately, those, you know, the company values you. They value everything that they've put into you, all the education and training. So even if you want to transfer into a different company or a different department, like they're still going to value you because you've come with so much more experience than just an outsider. So just don't be afraid to have like that clear and open communication. And then also just, you know, put your best foot forward, be clear and direct and say like, hey, if you're having problems communicating, like this isn't working for me. And I just think that like making those network connections, like Amanda, Morgan, Alma all said before, is really important. Making friends even in the department, so you can learn like, oh, do I like brand marketing? Do I like digital? I think I would fit in there if that's somewhere I want to go in the future? Because friends will also give you kind of like more direct answers of what you're looking for. So not only mentors, but, you know, friends as well are really important among companies. So.
I know like we're almost out of time, so I'll just keep it brief. I think I liken it to like working at big companies, like going to school at USC. It's a huge school, but you have your people and you have your pod and you have the people that you turn to. And there are a lot of pros and cons. And I think it just depends on the type of person that you are. And are you looking to take big risks and like maybe work at a startup and don't have a lot of structure? Because a company that's big, the reason it's successful and it's big is it has a lot of systems of checks and balances, a lot of structure, a lot of hierarchy, and those things exist because they want to preserve the company culture. There are lots of pros to that, but some cons might be that sometimes systems and processes move a little bit slower. So if you're someone who is looking to make a big impact and work in like a smaller environment. Don't, don't feel threatened by a bigger company, because even in a big company, you have a small little pod that you work within. And if you make the right connections, like everyone is saying, there is a lot of room for growth. And, that growth is very, open to you, because you kind of know what positions are available, the background to those positions, while, somewhere like a startup is really exciting and it's fun. But you may like start working in one position and end up, as the head of something in a few years. So I think either way is very exciting. It just depends on your personality, and I don't think you can go wrong in any choice, because it's really all about experience. And if you work at a big company, a startup will think that's sexy and that's great because you have that experience. If you work at a startup, a big company will think that's great because you have that go-getter attitude, you have the innovation, you have the ability to think on your feet. So pick whatever company that you pick, just pick something that's strategic for your next move,
Thank you, panelists. You've given us so many good insights and recommendations. Unfortunately, we are at time, so I'm going to pass it back to you, Jeff, but thank you guys again.
Thank you, Justin and Julia, for hosting it. You guys did a great job. I thought the school set me up in a cool room, but I like your background better, I think. That's pretty cool. Hey, I got one more for you for the panelists real quick, right? There's got to be a speed round, all right? You can answer it one of two ways. One piece of advice for the students here that are listening in that you would give them now, knowing what position they're in, and or one thing that you wish you'd have known when you were in their shoes at this point. So, and Amanda, I see you smiling. I'll let you go first.
I would say don't be so hard on yourself and be positive, and it's all going to work out, because I was so stressed out and anxious and didn't think I was going to get a job, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And I just think enjoy being in college and enjoy these opportunities, and everything will work out, and you'll work for a long time, so it will be fine.
And Amanda, probably you remember, right? I think you spent several of those moments in my office. So,
yeah.
Yeah. All right, Allie.
Yeah, I would say something similar, to be honest. It's so easy to compare yourself to what other people are doing. Everybody else's job looks more glamorous, looks more fun, is making more money in a better city. It's lethal. Don't bother. I think social media and every bit of connectivity that we have is great, but also it's so hard not to compare yourself and be pressured by outside factors. So I think at the end of the day, if you wake up in the morning and you're content with what you're doing personally and professionally, if you're working for a company where maybe they don't have every single thing you want, because I'm telling you that's not possible, but if you know what your priorities are in your personal and professional life, try and find a company that aligns with as many as possible. But be easy on yourself and don't compare yourself to what anyone else is doing, because none of that matters.
Alma.
Absolutely. I would echo those sentiments. And honestly, one thing I wish when I was going through this process was I would be more confident. Like, you are your own business. Even if you don't feel confident, if you exude confidence, people will want to buy whatever you're selling, even if it's yourself, right? So you're worth so much more than you give yourself credit for. You're coming from an amazing school, an amazing program. You're a top candidate. People want fresh blood. They want you. And if you're confident and if you know what you have, even if it's not experience, you have ideas, you have passion, you have innovation. That's what a company needs to survive. And so they desperately need you. Otherwise, they will die. So honestly, you have more of a position of power than you think. And I wish I remembered that. So as you're negotiating, don't be afraid to negotiate. Put yourself first. You are your own best friend. Get a second opinion, but don't power to anyone or any company because you think you're not worthy. You're absolutely worthy, and they would be lucky and blessed to have you on their team. And that's the mindset you should go into it with, and that's the mindset they'll have when you leave.
And Alma said earlier, I wrote this down, Alma. I hope people caught it. You're not different, or you're not perfect, you're different. And embrace that. Right. I thought that was really well said. That's one of those quotes I'll remember from this session. I've got a bunch of them written down, but that one is that you're not perfect. You're embrace being different, and companies are looking for more diversity and more diversity of thought than ever before. We talked about that in the session before. All right, Marissa, your turn.
Never stop networking. You never know whose hand you shake next or not shake now that is going to be your next employer, your next connection to someone. So if you're not involved in an organization, I don't care if it's chess club or like intramural sports, but I mean, I'd highly recommend the business fraternities because that's actually how I ended up getting a connection and then connected to a recruiter. Please, please, please get involved. It will open up so many doors, and also you're going to have so much fun doing it. So get connected through your professors, through your friends, outlets at school. Go to the career fairs. I cannot tell you how many people did not utilize that career fair. You are so lucky that you have that. You know, I really wish that that was a thing for people once you graduated college, because there's nothing really like that in the real world. And you have people there standing and waiting to talk to you because they want to hire you. Please, please go to those.
All right, Miss Hamel, bring us home.
Yeah, I would echo the sentiment around don't put so much pressure on yourself. It's going to be fine. I would also say just stay curious and open to learning and just maintain that eagerness to learn, and don't pigeonhole yourself. I think Jeff always said, what, like 80-something% of marketing majors end up in sales roles, or maybe the number is even larger than that. And I always said, I'm not going to be one of those people. I'm going to be in that 20%. And I ended up in a sales role, and I'm so thankful I did. And I'm thankful I stayed open to it because I love my job now and I've been able to learn so much. So stay open to it. And even if you do end up in sales and don't like it, you can do something else later, but just stay open. And yeah, just stay curious with anything that you're doing as you start your career, as you continue on in your career. Just, yeah, stay curious.
All right. Well, ladies, thank you so much. We're about 10 minutes over, but I didn't have the heart to stop us because we were on a roll, and you answered every question. I'm learning from you guys, and you know I'm giving advice out every day, and so to be able to hear from you guys helps us as well as the students, and so I can't thank you enough for that. And despite maybe everybody in the audience thinking this is my personal public relations team, the way I do this every year is there's about 20 people I send an invite out to see who wants to be on this panel, and these were the first 5 that responded. And it's because they care and they want to give back. And as I said at the beginning, I couldn't be prouder of the careers they've started and what they're accomplishing. So I think, I forget who it was. I think it may have been Marissa on the Career Expo. I'll end with this. I don't know if you all know this, but all 5 of these companies recruit here. Right. So it's also intentional in terms of the companies I have represented here, because yes, these are great students. Several of them were in my class and all that good stuff. But these companies recruit here. And if you're not paying attention to Handshake and you're not attending Expo and that sort of thing, you're missing opportunities that could be out there. I know Allie hosted a networking event not too long ago. So I take advantage of the opportunities, network, et cetera. Ladies, thanks again. It's been great. And for those that are staying for the last session, you can stay in the room here. Let's take a break for 5 minutes or so. I know a couple of the ladies here are going to be continuing to join us. So we'll see everybody in a few minutes.